Welcome, welcome, welcome. So excited to get things started today. I guess I say that pretty much every time, but it's true. It's true. I have to say, it is absolutely true. I am passionate about what I'm doing here, and I am excited every single day that I do it. So, I mean it. I mean it when I say I'm excited. I am. It seems so strange, but it is what it is. Hello, hello, hello. Come on into the chat. Hello, Cobalt. Always a pleasure. Looking forward to talking today about guilt. Ooh. Yeah, guilt. Ooh. Hello, Mandy girl. How are you doing today? Good to see you. And Celine is here. Yay. Let me go ahead and I will get introduced and then we will start talking. So hello for anyone who is watching this video live or replay who does not yet know me. I'm Heather. Most of my friends call me Nookie. Hey, Barb's, always a pleasure. I live an amazing personal life. I cannot stress how much I love my life. I write books, I teach classes, I run workshops, I do these live webinars, whatever, about love, sex, romance, and of course, kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. Like, let's pause, because I've said that a lot. Let's pause and think about that. What a life, right? Pretty freaking exciting. Anyway, I have this life because I've always been curious and adventurous when it comes to how people relate physically, sexually, and mentally, emotionally. And luckily, I've found partners who've been the same, and I've had the opportunity to explore many facets of human relating and sexuality in loving and creative ways in different parts of the country and around the world. All of my experiences, I know I say this every time, every single one of my experiences thus far have led me to the belief that boundaries are the key to not only saving ourselves, but our relationships. Boundaries are what take us from getting by or merely average to healthy, loving, strong, and fan-fucking-tastic. So let's get started. As usual, I'll kick us off with an introduction to my book and how I'm writing it. I am writing, here we go, my new book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, working title, right now. And you can get access to the chapters as I write and post them by registering for my ongoing Take No Shit workshop. Now, that began Monday, October 17th. We had a week of catch up, and we are in week 4 starting today, but it is a work at your own pace workshop. Also, I've been warning all of you, for those of you who have been tuning in for a while and maybe putting off joining, the price went up. I told you it was going to. Right now, for the 7 weeks of workshop, which is actually going to end up being, I think, 8, 9, or 10 modules. Again, at your own pace. So you can join now, start at the beginning, and catch up to us, or take your time. You've got plenty of time to get through this workshop. Right now, the workshop is $47. You can get it for as low as $27. You can name your price down to the $27 mark. $27 for 7 weeks or more. That's less than $4 a week. Totally a great deal. And the price will continue going up. Eventually, the price will be $197 for all of those modules, the full year of access, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you absolutely do not want to wait. It is November 17th right now. It is a great time to get that workshop for yourself, buy it for a holiday gift, get started on your New Year's resolutions to creating a healthier and stronger you and healthier and stronger relationships. Yeah. So, hey, Sabyasachi, always a pleasure. Uh, Barb's is in the communal chat this time. Yay! Good morning, Ava. Always a pleasure. Hello, KS. Good to see you. Mandy girl, I am good. I am very good. I am fantastic right now. I am feeling so amazing and in love with life right now. I am also, I'm going to segue into a little personal stuff here. I am also starting to feel like a little overlay of nervousness and tension in my life. I'm starting to notice that it's taking me a little while to respond properly to things. Sometimes I'm a little snarkier than I need to be, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Because for those of you who don't know, on December 12th, I go in for full hysterectomy. For medical purposes, I have the BRCA1 genetic mutation. And then on December 28th, I go in for full top surgery and reconstruction. Again, BRCA1 genetic mutation, doing all of this to hopefully prevent, to definitely prevent those type of lady cancers, hopefully prevent cancer in general, because otherwise, if I didn't do all of this, it'd be almost guaranteed that I would suffer from one of those lady cancers. And my mother passed away at a very young age. She was 42 of really aggressive breast cancer. So these will be my first surgeries ever. Yeah. Woo. Not sure how I'm going to respond to anesthesia, how I'm going to recover from the surgery, and so on and so forth. So I'm a little nervous. I'm generally optimistic. I'm also realistic, knowing that, who knows what could happen. But overall, I think this is going to go really, really well. And I'm super excited about it. And, getting to the other side of things and hitting 50 next August with all of you, seeing your progress with all of this and continuing to explore boundaries and all of the other things that go into an amazing life and relationship with you. So, before I get started on today's topic, let's see what Cobalt has to say. Quick share. I had a recent W. Someone said something I didn't like, and my brain went right to how can I make them stop? But I caught it before I said anything. Chose not to manipulate. Excellent. Excellent. Ah, fabulous. Okay. So today, you used to be so nice. Oh my goodness. The guilt, right? So, as Celine can tell you from experience, when she came to me and she said she wanted to create a better life for herself, and we started talking about, setting boundaries and prioritizing herself, I told her, I said, you're going to lose friends and it's going to hurt. And she agreed. She's like, oh, yeah, this is going to happen. I get it. But until it happened, she didn't really understand how it was going to feel. And the kinds of guilt that were handed to her as part of her starting to set boundaries for herself were surprising, right? You don't expect that people who are theoretically supposed to love you and want the best for you Celine says, double-edged sword for sure, um, are going to try to make you feel bad for doing what's right for you. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about how this is. Um, Celine did, as many of you have discovered, uh, made herself a part of my life. She explained what she wanted to learn, and here she is 8 years later. She still has people in her life who want the old her back. There are still people that reach out to her and try to engage her using old patterns, hoping they will get the former Celine responses. And they get quite wroth with her when they don't get them. They're still surprised by it, right? Celine is no longer the person who will do anything for those people, even at terrible cost to herself, right? And there's still that tiny little bit of hurt to know that, well, that's what they really loved about her, not so much who she actually is as a person. But, and Celine, correct me if I'm wrong here, there's also a little bit of, there's an amusement to these people trying so hard to get the old her back, to like transparently trying to engage her with the same tactics over and over and over again. Like she doesn't just see through them. So this topic is really, really dedicated to what she went through and how she's come out the other side. So that's why I tell the story here. So, Celine says, I will admit to being amused often by it now. Yeah. The thing is, those were some of the people she was closest to back then. People that she thought she might have in her life in intimate and loving ways for the rest of her life. And she realized that they were really just leeching off of what she had to give. And she put limits, and she made breaks with some of them. And here's something else for those of you who are not single and childless, know that this will affect the people who are closest to you. Celine's children suffered because some of these people were parts of their lives and not just hers. So it took a lot of internal strength for her to keep working to become the person she wanted to be. And she pushed through the pain, and she smiled through the tears. And she met people who only knew her as the growing vision of herself, the Celine with boundaries and a newfound strength and determination to live the life she felt like she earned, not the one that those former people were trying to tell her she deserved. This is who she is. This is what you deserve. So when an old friend tries to ask her for something or to try to treat her in habitual ways from years past, she'll stop them in their tracks. And She'll tell me this, and they'll still, after years of this, get flustered or confused because the Celine they have in their head is still that old Celine. They are still trying to interact with who they want her to be. They haven't even paused to see that she's really changed. They haven't accepted those no's. They're like, "Oh, well, that's odd," right? And then they'll try again in a couple of months because they keep wanting and needing the old her. And that person doesn't exist anymore, right? Celine, if anyone is not happy that you're doing the best for you, that is who Nookie's talking about. Absolutely. That is exactly who I'm talking about. Anybody who does not cheer you on when you set a boundary. Anyone who does not thank you for letting them know when you clarify something doesn't work for you. KS says, there's an article called The Dangers of Being Nice. Ooh, yeah. There are dangers to being nice. Also, keep in mind, and again, we talked about this on Tuesday, how words are important. And I talked about this on Monday evening, how I like to define words for the purposes of the spaces that I hold for you. I personally define in my head and my experiences, and for the purposes of what I teach and share, I personally have a big difference in nice and kind. And there is a huge danger in being nice, partially because part of being nice is specifically doing what you think is expected of you. And that's not good. Those are covert contracts right there. Being nice is often a part of covert contracts. So, Stephanie says, kindness is beautiful. Kindness is beautiful. Kindness is human. Kindness, in my view, is a function of strength. As we grow, as we learn to protect ourselves, as we focus in on the prime directive, protecting our hearts and minds, as we learn to prioritize ourselves and put ourselves first, we stop spending all of our resources, everything that we have, as Tom Waits put it, like small change on strangers. And we have those resources available to us to be kind. And the more we protect our resources, the more kind we can be. When people are not kind, you know that either A, there's something broken up here, but that's incredibly rare. Or B, and this is 99.9%, it's because they are hurting. They are weak. They are insecure, and they have spent and continue to spend their resources. They do not have kindness left. Cobalt says, and boundaries are kind. Boundaries are incredibly kind. X saw my boundaries as a challenge, and I allowed them to push me out of them. My current Dom praises me when I set boundaries, says Mandy Girl. It's a refreshing change. Yeah. Cobalt says, also recently realizing how much energy has been going to try to control everyone else. Yes. And how that deprived me of the energy to manage myself. So that's a key, right? Because we're setting boundaries. This is where you don't get to cross. But a boundary is also for us. We don't have to cross this either. Everything behind this boundary, inside this boundary, this is me. Everything outside that boundary, not me. Don't have to control it, can't control it, not worth the energy to control it. Look at that. I've got so much more left for myself. So, let me ask you a question. And I know some of you are going to say, I'm working on it. Do you put yourself first? Do you make yourself a priority? Now, for most of you, I'm going to guess it's going to feel a little or a lot out of character to put yourself first. Especially if you grew up trying to anticipate everyone else's needs or wants. Act in a certain way, wear this, don't say that, and so on. Right? Maybe, almost certainly, you were socialized to believe that your worth is directly tied to how much you can give people. And that's actually part of what we're talking about today, right after this live, when I go do the live for this week's module for Take No Shit, is coercion culture, and how coercion culture tells us that our worth is directly tied to how much we can give people, how much we can provide them. Also, some of you watching this will have experiences of trauma in all of these things. Don't talk about this. Act like this. Always, always, always watch very carefully to see what somebody else might need and want. And that is how we survive. That is how we get through things, right? But whatever your reason, I've said it before, I'm going to say it again, not your fault. First and foremost, not your fault. You are here because you are a sum of your life and experiences. Not your fault that you've had shitty boundaries or that you haven't put yourself first. It is now your responsibility moving forward to learn to do better for you, right? So for some people, putting yourself first is hard. Maybe the hardest thing you're going to do in 2022. Possibly also the hardest thing you're going to do in 2023 and maybe also in 2024, even if you're watching this right now, Thursday, November 17th, 2:24 p.m. Eastern Time. It takes a long time to overcome years, decades of socialization and trauma. A long time. Be compassionate with yourself. Ava says, boundaries are a daily and conscious sparring match for me. I was raised in a culture where women are raised to serve, and it is so deeply settled into my subconscious. Yes, exactly that. And I am not going to ask you to not serve because some people love to serve. I'm not going to ask you to not serve. I'm not going to suggest that you shouldn't serve. Just because you were socialized that way doesn't mean it's wrong. Just choose more carefully who you serve and how much of yourself you serve to them. That's all I ask. Start by saying no. We've already talked about that. If somebody can't take your no's, if somebody can't honor your boundaries, they're not worth your service. Celine says, give it a couple of years before you're too judgy with yourself, please. Celine is still every once in a while going, I hadn't gotten there yet. Ugh. Why are you calling me out like that? Right? A lot of us have spent so much time with the idea that we have to make everyone else happy and put ourselves aside. Here's the thing, though. I'm going to be very clear. That is 100% false. In fact, today I was sharing with some friends of mine a little funny that I found on Facebook. That was, I'm looking it up right now. It was, in your 20s. Ooh, I hope I can be normal long enough for them to like me. In your 30s. They can like me or not. I don't care. And in your 40s. Maybe if I act really weird, they'll leave and I can go to bed early. Now, granted, we don't all go through those phases at the exact same time, but that's kind of how I am in my 40s. I'm 49 right now. I'm like, maybe if I act really weird, maybe if I show them who I really am, they'll leave me alone and I don't have to waste any more time with this. Right? I'm a huge fan of writing like dating profiles and stuff from the standpoint of let them disqualify themselves, right? Stephanie says, if I'm not contributing something, I feel useless. Gauging your spoons and what you have to do versus what you want to do. Ooh, key. Yes, absolutely. And that's something, hey, in August, I said, well, right before August, I said, you know what? August is my birthday month. For my birthday, I'm going to focus on passion projects. And I dropped all of this other stuff I was doing on a daily basis and focused in on boundaries. And after about a week, I was like, this is fun. Don't know what I'm doing, but gosh, I'm going to keep doing it. And after another week, I was like, oh my gosh, I only have 2 more weeks of August. That's not enough time. And by the end of August, I'm like, yeah, you're not getting me back. The old me, she's gone. No more. I love this. I'm passionate about it. This is what I want to do. I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah. So here's some things you might experience when you start putting yourself first. It might be really uncomfortable because it goes against everything you're used to. And frankly, sometimes it's going to make others around you uncomfortable angry, and even resentful. Uncomfortable because they're not used to this from you. Angry, maybe because you're not giving them what they're used to getting from you. And resentful because sometimes people are going to look at you and think, well, why does she get to set boundaries like that? It doesn't work for me. And they're going to be frustrated and jealous, envious, maybe, that they don't get to do the same thing. They do. They just don't know it. Another thing, not everyone is in your life forever. And that's not a bad thing. Some people are just passing through, right? Some people are looking for how they can make use of you. When you're not putting yourself first, it's really easy for those types of people to take advantage of you. You know? But some of the good things, once you get used to it, you'll feel less stressed, less anxious. It'll start to settle in and feel right, eventually right, dare I say it. You'll be more comfortable in your own skin. You'll feel more like you. Cobalt says natural. Yeah, it'll start to feel natural. It'll take a while until it feels natural. And every once in a while, you're going to come up against something and be like, ooh, that doesn't feel natural. I haven't practiced that enough. It will become easier and second nature to create strong and healthy boundaries and stick with them. And you're also going to find there are going to be certain areas of boundaries that you're going to keep not being so good at. It is what it is. You'll find that you're doing more and more in your personal life of what you want to do and less of what you feel obligated to do. And you're going to find that you're going to start building your personal life and possibly even your business life, your professional life around things that fill you up, things that light you up, things that you're passionate about. And you might just say, work is work, but my personal life, that's the bomb diggity, right? And you're no longer going to feel awful when other people get upset that you put yourself first, because you're going to realize that that upset is all about them and not about what's best for you. Ding. Harley says, as someone that is mostly in a service role in most of my life, I've had to draw back and not give all of me and only what I want. I've found the most important people to me have remained. That right there, everyone, I would like everyone to appreciate that right there. I've had to draw back and not give all of me and give only what I want. I've found the most important people to me have remained. I bet you've also found that the people you attract are those kinds of people. The people who are important to you, the people who want you to do what's important to you and what you want. And other people will come into your life and be like, hey, what can I get at? Oh, no, this isn't working. Bye-bye. Cobalt says, I think I'll hear you used to be so mean because it's really tiring and frustrating trying to control the world, and it leads to cranky Joeys. There is that too. I mean, there is a lot of stress involved in feeling like you constantly have to fight people off with this hand and protect everything with this hand. I'm not afraid to be silly. Harley says, yes, precisely. There we go. Barb says, I come from a culture of equality between the sexes since the 70s, and also a local culture of very strong women for centuries, Vikings and fishermen's wives. It is possible. It is absolutely possible. It's so fascinating to me how right now in my life, I am living a life that I could not have even comprehended. I mean, and if you don't understand what that feels like, think about like 20 years ago when you got your first AOL CD, for those of you who are old enough to remember that, right? And you put that in and it went, and where we are today as far as the internet. Now imagine how different you and the world could be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and realize that you can't even really get super close to that because we don't have the knowledge of what's going to be happening, right? So here's the thing. Sometimes people say to me, so when should I put myself first? Because of course, everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people are really, really, really worried about what? Selfishness, right? We socialized from a very young age to not be selfish. In fact, the word selfish is like, oh my God, am I selfish? I can't be selfish. That's awful. Right? Put yourself first always, every time. I'm not saying don't consider others. I wrote this piece, oh gosh, years and years and years ago for a kink audience that says, your consent doesn't matter as much as my consent. Now, of course, people are like, well, just because you want something doesn't mean you get to do it with me. No, that's not what I meant. What I mean is, for me, what I want has to exist before I care about what you want. Right? Let's look at how that works in practical application. For example, there are, as I look around me right now, things are a little cluttery. Not my favorite thing, actually. Not at all. I don't like clutter. I don't like things piled up. Things have been crazy the past couple of weeks. Not a fan. And you know what else I don't like? I don't like picking up. I hate it. I like a nice clean house. I like things to be not cluttered. but I don't like picking up. Hate it. But you know what? You know what I love? I love having a clean home. I love having a place where my partner and I can feel comfortable together. I love being able to look around and seeing the clean lines and the things that we have chosen together and separately to make this place nice. My consent, what I want, then informs everything else that's possible, right? Harley says, it was put to me, selfishness is when you think only of you. Selflessness is when you consider both sides, yours and the others, and how both sides benefit from my choices. So that's interesting because most people that I've encountered, selflessness is the opposite of selfishness. So selfishness is when you think only of you. Selflessness is when you don't think of yourself enough and you're giving and giving and giving to others without enough return or without thinking of the consequences. So prioritizing yourself. That's how I prefer to put it. Cobalt says, quick reminder, please hit that like button. Hit like, hit love, please subscribe. All of the things. Stephanie says, rejecting someone's advances is not selfish. It's more considerate to be true to yourself and to not waste their time, to not use them, right? To not lead them on. Mandy says, excuse me, responsible hedonism. There's actually a word for it. Hedonism is pursuing pleasure at all costs. The responsible hedonist is called an Epicurean, and that is pursuing pleasure, knowing that there are other things that you have to do in order to make that pleasure happen. So, yeah. Cobalt says, I think doing this workshop is putting myself first. I want this, need this, and I'm dedicated to this, and it feels good, even when it's hard. Yay. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's talk about needs and wants and putting yourself first, right? What are my needs and what are my wants? My needs are always, 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 must always be a priority to me. Always. My wants are sometimes a priority to me. Now, let's talk about how that interacts with other humans. For me, my needs are always going to go before another person's wants. But another person's needs that I care about, that I'm in a relationship with, I may put their needs before my wants, which is a want in and of itself, right? Because I want their needs to be met because I care about them, because I love them. So my needs are prioritized. Their needs are prioritized. Then my wants, then their wants, generally speaking. And for them, I would expect the same thing. They have to prioritize their own needs ahead of my wants. If I want a hug right now and they need to be left alone for mental processing, that should come first. right? Wants are important. Life should be built up of wants. We should want to do the things that we do. We should want the people in our life that we have in our life. We should want to create collaborative experiences. Womanopolis says, according to philosopher Lipovetsky, our times are the most in which we are more focused on ourselves than ever. Our times. Are we missing a word there? I feel like we're missing a word there. Our best times are the most, or our times are the best in which we are more focused on ourselves than other. And I would say self-focus is key. But again, I would say self-prioritizing for me, because again, focus is kind of like, I don't know, the word is like it's like a lens and everything else blurs. I don't want everything else to blur necessarily. Oh, contemporary times. Okay. See, I don't agree with that necessarily. I don't agree with that. I don't think that we are now more focused on ourselves than ever. I just think that now we can display that publicly more easily. I think humans have always pretty much been humans. And yeah. I don't You say before people thought different, but did they? I don't think that that's true. I think if you go all the way back to Aristotle and Plato and Aurelius, you're going to get a lot of the same sentiments. This has been happening for generations, I believe. Um, Here's the thing. When I was growing up, I got the message that complete selflessness in a relationship is a goal, that you should put your partner's needs and wants before your own, even to the detriment of your well being, to try to do the right thing, and it will come back to you. And that's bullshit. It's just bullshit. You are your own best advocate. All of my relationships now have benefited from me prioritizing my needs. When I take space to be alone and practice selfish care, as my friend Zach Budd calls it, selfish care, I have more energy to devote to my friends and my lovers. And they feel the energy that I have to give them so much more strongly. I'm able to give more quality time. I very rarely snap at people over a difficult day because I take care of me before I see them, or I even bow out of things sometimes so that I can recover and not spread my crankiness like a virus. Stephanie says, we've learned and are more knowledgeable about human needs and mental health. Yes, that is very true. Cobalt says, I think people often think others are selfish while they feel themselves to be stretched too thin. We live in a culture of entitlement. I used to always put my wife's needs before my wants. When I stopped, all hell broke loose. Yeah, Roger, your wife, at least from the way you have presented her, the way that you experienced her, piece of work. Absolutely. Could you know what you want or need and can't communicate? Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It takes, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It takes practice to stand up for yourself. Womanophilis says before people thought different, people go to more gyms now than before. Before, gyms didn't exist in the same way they do now, right? Says before family was a priority, not now. To whom? Who are you saying that to? I know lots of people for whom family is a priority. I don't think that all of this can be said this is all true. I don't think this is true. Yes, things have changed, but I don't think it's because people are more selfish. Celine says, for me, it is knowing that I have the choice and that with that also comes the responsibility to take care of me. Absolutely. 100%. So, because we are so often raised with a message that we are to give to others, even at sacrifice to ourselves, it's very, very hard to overcome that feeling, right? It's very, very hard not to equate putting yourself first with being a selfish asshole, right? And I'll tell you again that putting yourself first, you're going to be able to open up and give far more of yourself than you ever did before and still feel filled up. But here's the thing. Let me clarify. When I'm talking about you putting yourself first, I don't mean grab the first and biggest slice of cake, right? Or the last cocktail weenie in the buffet, or bilking someone out of their pension. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. I mean, things like putting your values before the values that others want to impose upon you. Putting your boundaries ahead of others' desires for you, physically or emotionally. Putting your life needs, like your finances, a place to live, and your career, ahead of the things people ask from you or expect of you. Like something as strange as, like, you ever feel that little twinge of guilt at the grocery store when they say, would you like to round up for, whatever charity they've got? I always say no, thank you. And sometimes I still feel a little, But here's the thing. One, when you round up to charity at the grocery store, they get to claim the deduction. Two, it goes to whatever they are working on and not to what I choose to prioritize and put my donations into. So it's not much of a twinge, but it's still putting your mental health above others' needs for drama, codependency, trauma dumping, even relationships with you. And not being mean about it. Your needs are more important and valid to you, but not to everyone. And recognizing that fact can help you keep them in nice and tight and close instead of using them to steamroll over others. And by holding firm to what is right for you, you need not really focus on others at all because you're not harming them or denying them anything except yourself and your personal resources, which is entirely your right. On the other hand, by valuing and protecting your resources, you will find that you're able to give them when you choose, when it's right, to those who matter most in authentic ways. And yeah, people are going to try to make you feel guilty. People are often assholes, intentionally or otherwise. However, if you stick to your needs and desires and let people have theirs without invalidating them, there's nothing to feel guilty about, and a lot to take pride and pleasure in. Let's see. Human nature is still the same at different methods. This I would say is true. Barb says, I'm putting myself first, but that also means I want a happy family. I love them. Absolutely. And that's the thing. When I put myself first, it means the people around me being happy makes my life better. That's what I prioritize. Sometimes putting myself first means nurturing my relationship with my kids because I value that. Oh, absolutely. Harley says, I think society has shifted priorities overall, such as in a family dynamic, parents aren't required to pour 100% of themselves without being judged for self-care. But so here's the thing. Do we think that there weren't like shitty parents 400 years ago? Do we think that they weren't judged? Like, and do we think that being good parents weren't held as like a great standard? I think that we see this differently because what we see from the past is not accurate. Chaos says, sometimes we see things on paper, but to practice it is a different kettle of fish. Oh, 100%. Stephanie says, my personal boundaries and values are not worth less than others projecting their ideals onto me. Ding, 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 ding. Ooh, 3 more minutes before I have to get on to the next live. Here's the thing, y'all. You used to be so nice. No, Sandra. What I used to be was a pushover with crappy boundaries, and I let you walk all over me, and you love that about me. Setting boundaries with other people is not going to make you popular with some of them. As I've been saying, you're probably going to get a lot of pushback. But once you set your boundary, stand by it. It's your right. And know that by setting boundaries against mistreatment, you are living your prime directive. Setting boundaries doesn't make you mean. So, real quick, 2 more minutes. Actually, like a minute and a half because I have to get off here and get on live in the Take No Shit workshop. Join the Take No Shit workshop. Use this link right here. That gets you the Take No Shit workshop. Work at your own pace for $47 or as low as $27 if you choose to name your own price. It also gets you access to the Boundaries book Live Right as I'm posting it chapter by chapter. Today I posted a new chapter, which is, when they lose their shut the front door. That was the name of the chapter for today. So absolutely join me. I hope you can. I'm Heather Nookie. My pronouns are she, hers. I thank you for joining me today. Next Tuesday, we will be talking about, do you live for their acceptance? So hope to see you next Tuesday, noon Eastern. And some of you I know I'm going to see in just a moment over at the Take No Shit Live. So, bye y'all.